Okay, we are starting our Lunch and Learn, our Tech Council Lunch and Learn. I am Tamika Miller. I am the Executive Vice President for the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. Happy to be here with all of you. And just wanted to say some quick words. Of course, we've all heard about AI by now, and many of us have attended sessions and workshops that are often quite theoretical, focusing on concepts and possibilities. And we hope today's webinar is going to be different. We're here to demystify artificial intelligence with practical examples that make it easier to grasp and apply in your everyday life. So in this session, we'll simplify the complexities of AI and showcase real world examples that illustrates its applications and its impact. So we're very excited today to have this panel of experts. And I will now introduce Joan Walker. She's the COO and CFO of Unipen. And Unipen is our sponsor for the Technology Council. And she is also the moderator for today's discussion. And so Joan, if you'll take it away.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. It's going to be a lively presentation, and we're going to have questions and answers at the end. Unipen is absolutely happy to do this presentation and to get the information out on AI. We are a small MSP that offers managed security, technology, and we also do a little bit of data movement and a little bit of AI, but not at the level that you're going to be seeing here. We have, for the last 35 years, we have been in the business of assisting people for moving data from one system to another, from putting it into reports. And then on the other side of it, we've been making sure that your organizations are secure and efficient. And we do that through the people, process, and technology, our tagline. And we're happy and thrilled to be seeing this, this presentation today and sponsoring this event. So without further ado, I want to introduce Roch Vitale and Sammy Williams. They are going to be your main presenters today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joan, so much for having us, the Chamber. Thank you, Tamika. So hi, everyone. I am Samantha Williams. I am the President and CEO of 628 Digital Design, which is a certified B Corp and a full-service marketing and consulting agency. So we are your digital content partner, assisting you with everything from social media, websites, marketing materials, and we also provide technical assistance to help businesses source, write, and submit grants, and also help you obtain your business and socioeconomic certifications. So I'm glad to be here with Roch.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Roch Vitale. I'm the founder and CEO of Easy, and we are a company that helps businesses automate their operations. So a lot of our work circulates around helping people do repetitive tasks faster, use technology where it makes sense to improve processes, reduce costs, and generally get things done more efficiently. So we've been working in AI and automation long before ChatGPT was released to the public. We've completed over 600 projects in this arena, and the result of our work is clients being able to get work done 95% faster, save costs significantly, and make more data-driven decisions. So we're really excited to share some examples that we've seen from the field in this regard. Really happy to be here.
And Roch has some really cool examples he's going to share, so stay tuned for that. So this is our agenda that we are going to cover today: what AI is, and more importantly, what it is not, how you can opt out of ChatGPT using your proprietary data. We're going to go over several practical business use cases. So like Joan said, you're going to leave here with actionable items that you can implement into your business today. The importance of training your staff on AI and automation use. Of course, AI best practices, and we're going to go through the pre-AI operations audit that organizations may want to do before getting started. So a little bit of housekeeping. As you see already in the agenda, we're going to be covering a lot of information in a little bit of time. We have about 40 minutes of presentation, and we're going to roll it over to Q&A after that and open it up. But don't worry, because Tamika with the Chamber is recording and the replay will be available. So if you miss anything, just watch the replay.
Awesome. And then, just diving into the presentation, thanks for the housekeeping, Sammy. Really, in terms of starting this presentation, we thought the best place to be would just to demystify a little bit what we're saying when we're talking about AI. I think, ever since AI has come out, there's been a lot of speculation, about what the future is going to look like and what it means for all of us as human beings. So just to demystify it a little bit and put some definitions in place, what AI is at the core level is it's a prediction system that's been trained on a large volume of data. So what a lot of us have seen are what are called large language models, where they've been trained on large volumes of text primarily, but you can actually train these models on other types of media like images, video, audio, even things like MRI data. We've all used these systems really for a long period of time. Google Translate, for example, was the first major system to use this commercially, but really it's just predicting a sequence of characters and making kind of statistical estimations of what it should say next. So more to say on that, but on a practical level, AI systems today are able to accurately complete simple tasks, relatively unsupervised. So things like data entry, interpreting documents, et cetera, which we'll talk about. But simple tasks is the emphasis there. Think like a tier 1 repetitive task. So AI can interpret things like text, images, video, like I was saying. They're what are called, the AI models today are what you would call multimodal. So very interesting that you can upload files to it just like you can send a sentence to it. Really useful for automating business processes that require interpretation, handling data, and especially super large data sets. A lot more to say about that. Just as importantly, what AI is not. Critically, AI is not a sentient / conscious system. It's not aware, it doesn't have emotions. And really, each time you're prompting it, it really does only know the information that was either used in its training or what you've told to it. So if it doesn't have what you would call the context of what you're trying to talk to it about, it won't be able to just sort of organically deduce those things. So we're not in a Skynet situation. We're not in a situation where we're seeing future planning or anything like that. It really is, like I said, a prediction system. So on that same note, AI today is not able to really handle extremely complex tasks in an unsupervised way. So a lot of the theme that you're going to see in this presentation is the concept of a semi-automated system where you have automation and AI strategically in place to kind of do those high impact, high frequency automation processes, but it's not taking over the whole end-to-end process. We may be there in the deeper future, but right now you have kind of a human in the loop type of thing. So in that same regard, AI is not currently a replacement for humans in high impact decision making. And part of our recommendations here do include for things that are high consequence, high impact, what that means. We strongly suggest having humans involved in things that affect other people in terms of decision making. So it's really not a replacement for that at this time. And critically, AI is also not a system that is perfect. AI models do make mistakes. They do have what are called hallucinations. And we'll share some sort of methods for reducing that, but there are a lot of controls you can put in place to reduce hallucinations and mistakes. But critically, putting quality control measures in place around whatever AI systems you implement are critical for business success. So just one more housekeeping thing while we're still kind of in the intro here. I think on a practical level, a lot of you probably have used ChatGPT, and for many of you, ChatGPT may have been the sort of primary exposure you've had to AI up to this point. We've all heard of it. We've all probably talked to it at least once. And I just wanted to obligatory mention that when you have a ChatGPT account, by default, your data is being used to train that model. So cybersecurity, data privacy, business proprietary data, all highly critical subjects. So if you go to the link here in this slide, you have a link here where you can click it. These are in your account settings too, but basically you just turn this feature off. And it's a little funny, the euphemism they've used for saying, don't use my data to train the model. It says improve the model for everyone. And you're saying, no, I don't want to do that. But you really don't want to do that. Turn it off so that it's not being used. Your data is not being used to train the model. This is a situation that not a lot of people know you have to do, but just do that if you're using ChatGPT for business in any capacity. I would say too that if you are using like a ChatGPT for your team, like if you have more than one person using it, we strongly suggest getting a team account instead. That was just a little housekeeping, since the practical result of this might just be that you're using ChatGPT differently. But the bottom line here is that this presentation really isn't a ChatGPT training. And it really is just something we wanted to mention here at the beginning as a housekeeping thing.
Thank you for going through those housekeeping strategies and tips. I think people needed to know some of that. So we're going to get into some of our case studies, and I'm going to cover market research and how you can really leverage AI in order to conduct competitor analysis and also customer feedback analysis, right? So using these tools, you want to take advantage of it because you're leveraging AI to help improve your competitive advantage. These tools are going to help you look at your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, right? We think about a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis are really good internal and external tools to use, but it could take a lot of time to do that research, to pull the information together, to make it make sense, and to synthesize it all. With AI, you no longer have to do that because you're going to pull those insights about the market trends, what's happening in your industry with your competitors, but you're going to use those trends and those insights to inform your marketing campaigns, your business practices, and your new trends. The only thing you want to make sure you're doing is validating the information that's produced from AI, because as we were mentioning, AI is not perfect and it is known for having considerably high error rates. So you want to make sure you're fact checking along the way. Just because AI produced it doesn't mean it's 100% accurate. So you're going to save time by having AI, whatever tool you're using, having AI pull that data and research for you, synthesizing it for you so it makes sense. But once it's done, you do want to use your human eyes to look it over, to validate the information, and then have it summarize everything so that you can pull it together and use that to make impactful decisions in your business. And you're going to do the same thing with the customer feedback analysis. So that includes reviewing your customer reviews, your feedback, and survey results, but pulling out the key points. So what you can do is take your surveys, dump it into AI. You can upload content to AI and ask for it to summarize the most impactful information that you can use to leverage in your business. So you can say things like, here is our recent survey, our customer feedback survey. You can even copy and paste Google reviews and see what are the trends, what are the analysis telling you when you're looking to use it that way.
Mm-hmm. Awesome point, Sammy. And then going into the next use case, and I think this is one that we're all kind of at least exposed to or familiar with, is chatbots that are on a person's website. So most businesses have a website where it's largely external, where it's a public-facing website. You've got users, prospective customers, leads, et cetera, going to your website. Historically, people have had chatbots that are keyword-driven, are very rigid, frustrating to use. You can't really speak to it in natural language, and it's a terrible experience, frankly. And then you also have your internal websites. Think, say you have a website where you have members that have a username and password. Maybe you're trying to get them to do certain behaviors, or maybe they're getting stuck somewhere. You can strategically have a chatbot on even your internal portals, in fact, to help with user behavior and to help with customer service and to generally answer these sort of high frequency questions. Chatbots are really powerful because they can reduce customer request volume by up to 75% plus. And it's really useful for those kind of tier one questions, those questions you get a million times before you route the person to then a human tier two specialist. So as you can see here in this video example here, this is actually a real chatbot that we have on our website where you can speak to it in natural language and it will answer questions. It'll give you links to case studies. It will try to get you to book an appointment. It will ask you for your name and email at a strategic time. But critically, what's really interesting about this is you can have these chatbots be trained on your business specific knowledge. So I won't go into the weeds about how that's working, but we're not actually training the model. We're actually strategically sending it relevant information based on what the question is. There's a whole process into how that works, but the whole concept of the model only knows what you tell it. You can have these chatbots answer highly business specific questions in your brand voice really accurately in a way that if they don't know the answer, it also won't just wildly answer an unrelated question. So there's really a lot of great controls you can put in place with a chatbot like this. But this, I think, is one of the sort of high impact use cases that a lot of people conceptualized. But critically, another part to understand here is that to put something like this in place, you don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to know how to build on top of the OpenAI API. This is a widget that you could essentially install on your website in 5 minutes. There's an element of having to prepare your custom knowledge, which we can discuss in the Q&A if preferred, but you do have to have custom knowledge that you give it for it to really kind of produce here. But super exciting, super interesting. A lot you can do too, just in terms of if a conversation happens that has a certain subject matter or certain types of questions are asked, then other things happen automatically, maybe in your CRM or maybe in another database somewhere. So very cool, very interesting use case with chatbots.
I love that, because who doesn't need a chatbot on their website to help reduce the amount of calls, emails, forms that are sent in? And you also mentioned leveraging your brand voice, right? That's part of training AI, whatever tools you're using, training it in your brand voice, which also goes into content creation, because a lot of us are now using AI for content creation. In the last year or so, it's been really effective at helping us work more efficiently in our businesses, right? So with blog writing, there are many different ways you can use it for blog writing. When you're saying, you know, give me a list of blog titles, you can write a whole blog and then upload it to AI and say, can you give me 6 to 10 titles I can use for this blog? You can even ask it to create an outline. You can say, I want to write a blog about HR trends in 2025. What's emerging? Can you give me an outline of that? And then you can also leverage it for data and stats. So say you have a blog written already. You can say, this is my blog, but I really want to add some stats to it to beef up what I'm saying. You can ask it to include in-text citations and also references. That gives you an opportunity to validate and research on your own, because it's already doing the research for you. You're just validating what it's pulling up. Using AI for social media posts, it can create content calendars. It can create your hashtags, tell you which hashtags are relevant right now. Using it to help outline your email campaigns and even develop SOPs, right? You can say, this is my company, this is what we do, these are our clients, this is our industry, and now can you help me create several HR SOPs or SOPs related to the different policies and procedures that we have in place here. You have the multilingual translations. Right before this, I got an email saying Grammarly now also does translation. So AI platforms do translation, Canva does translation, Grammarly does translation services. So there are many different ways you can leverage it that way. We talked about the document review and summary. That's uploading content, asking it to summarize an ebook, summarize this article, very content heavy material that you don't have the time to go through page by page. Offer letters, right? That's a very practical thing. We're hiring in our businesses. We just, over at my nonprofit, CMWP Foundation, we just hired a part-time employee. And so instead of going from scratch, oh, let me type up this offer letter, no, I can ask ChatGPT or another AI platform to start the offer letter, and then I'm going to go in and tweak it. And that's a very important thing we keep reiterating, is you never use that final iteration, whatever AI produces for you, as your content. I use Grammarly in every single thing that I do. And if I'm using AI, when I copy and paste that into Word or Google Docs, it lights up with all the green, the red, the blue errors that Grammarly has found from ChatGPT or AI. So you want to make sure that you are really using a fine eye when you're using it. But these are some really good content creation strategies that you can use. And Rock, I think you want to share something here.
Definitely. And I think Sammy brings up a lot of good points about how I think for a lot of us, this is sort of the initial thing when people are thinking about AI. I think this was kind of the first thing that came to a lot of people's mind, like, oh, we can use this for writing emails. We can use this for creating blog posts. And you know, what Sammy mentioned too in her first slide about market research, when you combine some of those systems with some of the content creation systems, we've seen, you know, some members of this chamber have really powerful use cases where you can use AI for basically understanding what keywords have the highest impact that are trending. You take those keywords and then you create blog posts based on that to automatically make you rank higher on an SEO standpoint. So when you combine some of these things to generate content, it's actually extremely powerful. The other thing I think is obligatory to mention when we're here in this election cycle and we're talking about content creation is deepfakes. That's another subject. It's you know, very polarizing, controversial. You know, and there's a lot of interest in the legislative sort of landscape about how to sort of address deepfakes, but it's worth saying that it's extremely easy in 2024 to create deepfakes. And it's one of those things, there's significant ethical considerations if you do that. But there are some beneficial applications for it, as Sammy mentioned, like, you know, creating training content, creating translated material. You know, we actively use AI to translate our video content from English into Spanish, for example, where it sounds exactly like your actual voice, but it's just you speaking a different language. And so with deepfakes, you know, obviously make sure you have permission if you're going to create a deepfake of somebody, you know, and consider telling people that they're interacting with AI system if you do create a deepfake. And one thing that's really worth mentioning here is that there's some controls you can put in place where if you prompt the system correctly, and if you give it some examples even of your writing style, it will produce significantly better than if you just sort of out of the box tell it to write you an email or something. So, you know, experiment with that, play around a little bit with that. And as Sammy said, make sure you read it before you fire it off to the world.
Always. And Rock, I wanted to make one other point here with PowerPoint and ChatGPT. So you can now, ChatGPT is now embedded into PowerPoint. It's in your toolbar. So you can also go into the AI platform, Canva, ChatGPT, Copilot, and ask it to create a PowerPoint for you. But through PowerPoint, you can go into PowerPoint itself, click the toolbar option, and it will produce a PowerPoint presentation for you, up to 7 slides for free. And then after that, you got to pay, or you just have it reproduce another 7 slides. It also, what I like, includes imagery and content, visual content that is also inclusive and diverse, because as some of us know, that's usually an issue when you're trying to have inclusive content with Black and minority individuals in the content. PowerPoint and ChatGPT with their integration is able to do that for you. So if you're in the process of creating PowerPoint presentations, this is a really cool tool for you to check out.
Awesome. Thanks, Sammy, for that. Totally interesting use cases. So what we're looking at here, this is another use case that we've seen have extremely high impact. So you can use AI systems for much more than just chat. You know, it's not just, oh, let's generate some text, call it a day. One of the things that AI is extremely useful for is actually extracting data from files. So think images and documents. The use case of what you would call unstructured data to structured data is one of the most high impact use cases that we've seen for business. And if there's anything you take from this presentation, if nothing else, it's that extracting data automatically from business materials is something that can significantly help almost every business. So what you're looking at here is this was actually a custom interface we created for a client that was processing 10,000 invoice files every month. And the invoices all had a different format. Some of them were handwritten, some of them were images, some of them were PDFs, some of them were multiple pages, some of them weren't. And they were manually extracting the data. There was a poor soul sitting in an office somewhere that was extracting the data from these documents and putting them into a spreadsheet or a database. And that was what they did every day. And that was a process that would take about a month. And what you're looking at here is a system where you can upload these 10,000 files to it. You can go get some Chipotle or some Sweetgreen, then you come back and the files are done. So it's one of those things that these things in a non-dramatic, like exaggerated way can go from taking days or weeks to mere minutes or hours. So you can see, you know, in this video, for example, these files go from this sort of pending status right here to complete automatically without any sort of human intervention. So it's quite remarkable and interesting and groovy. But unstructured data or semi-structured data to structured data, unambiguously helpful for almost everybody. And in a similar vein, sort of a sister use case, if you will, when you're dealing with databases, files, images, and other sort of large groups of data, you can use AI for classification as well. So think, you know, needing to have a sort of subjective interpretation of something. So for example, some businesses or organizations have a lot of public user comments on their website. So think, you know, job boards or boards in general, where you're allowed to leave comments on things, user submitted content in general. Moderation of content is something that historically, again, has been very time consuming. So we can see here on the left, you can actually use AI to categorize if the content that's going through it is in any sort of restricted category. So this can actually be really helpful if you have anything involving, like I said, user submissions or any sort of public facing materials. So for example, we had a client running a large scale poetry contest that needed moderation for the sort of judging element for it, where if there was any sort of restricted content, it automatically wouldn't go in the queue because they were dealing with, you know, thousands of submissions. And so you can see how that's obviously extremely helpful so that some of these restricted comments or materials don't make it to sort of the end public state. Then on the right-hand side, you can see this is actually a video of me when I had long hair, and it was a AI video processing system that this was made in 2021, by the way, pre-ChatGPT, but this was something we did for the health and safety industry, actually, where in a manufacturing context, the camera feed would tell you automatically if somebody was not wearing personal protective equipment. So think, you know, if you're a health and safety manager at the warehouse, you're having to walk the warehouse floor, say, hey, put your hard hat on. But in this situation, if I'm not wearing a hard hat, it just takes a screenshot and then it sends the health and safety manager a text message. So corrective actions can be applied. So you can imagine you have significantly lower rates of injuries, and you can incorporate these things into your injury illness prevention program. And then finally, in a classification context, you can also use this for high precision manufacturing. So on this bottom example, this was from a blog post we wrote, actually, where you can use computer vision systems to detect minor defects in your manufacturing process. So you can see this is a circuit board that on the left-hand side is defective. You've got bent pins, and on the right-hand side is from a QA standpoint, acceptable. And so you can have this level of granularity where it can tell you, if you put a high-speed camera on your production line, hey, this batch is messed up, so this lot number should be further reviewed. Very cool, and many more use cases besides this, even things like processing screenshots. So super fascinating.
I love that because it's really getting into improving efficiencies and improving productivity also. So it goes, there's a lot you can do with AI when you're leveraging it for your business. And we talked some about having it analyze the large documents and data sets. But this is really a very impactful tool because think about the large amount of content, especially on the legal side when you're reviewing cases and cases and cases. You can really upload that content into AI, and then you want to use the impactful prompts. We talked about the prompt engineering, but really making sure you're giving it the right information going in that you want, so that you get quality information going out. We all know garbage in, garbage out, right? So AI is going to produce, what it produces is going to be based on the content that you're giving it, the prompts that you're giving it. Rock was mentioning the more you can include your brand voice, style, and tone, and also let it know what it is you're looking for. What is it you really want to get out of this large data set? It's going to produce better outcomes for you. Rock, and I think you have something to share here.
Cool. And great thoughts there, Sammy. I think, this is another high impact use case that we see quite often, especially with some larger organizations. Something we see extremely frequently is a lot of businesses have large decentralized data sets, document repositories even that they can't really analyze. And I think it's worth mentioning that even though you can upload files to ChatGPT, like the ChatGPT that you can go on the internet, like the chat.openai.com, it's important to understand from this webinar that ChatGPT out of the box is extremely bad for analyzing large documents. So, for example, we work with some people in the lobbying industry where some of these bills that come out of the legislature are, 150 pages. ChatGPT cannot analyze that in a meaningful way. It can do some answering of questions, but for long documents, it's just not good at it. So we suggest using a specialized system if you are going to be doing sort of large document processing. But one thing to mention too is that AI is also really useful for analytics and statistical analysis of your large data sets. So we've seen a few instances, especially in the nonprofit industry, where you take these data sets, you use AI to kind of process some of the data, to prepare some of the data into that more structured format, and then you combine that with traditional automation where you're using things like Python to actually run the statistical analysis. But AI can run computer code. So just to be really clear about what I'm saying there, AI is not doing mathematical operations. You don't want AI to do math. You want the AI to use traditional code to do the math, but you can use the AI to process the unstructured data into the structured data. And on the subject of mass document processing, we have this little video here that I think is just worth discussing, where this was a grant that a couple nonprofit people we were working with were trying to bid on. And this system that you're seeing here, where you can upload a document and you can actually talk to it, this is something that we're seeing a lot of businesses have a huge amount of traction in, where you're taking this document, you're saying, hey, what is this? What is this about? Tell me what the eligibility criteria looks like. Am I a group that can apply for this grant, for example? And you can ask it highly specific questions. We have seen people upload 597-page documents to this system and be able to get extremely clean answers out of it. And again, it's a situation where if you're just looking at like a ChatGPT, it might struggle with a use case like this. So this is why we're saying that in some cases for your business, it might make sense to put more of like a specialized type of application like this in place. But, in terms of, do you need something like this right away? We'll touch on that. But it is a situation where if you're dealing with these large, complicated documents, like, oh, I have a 300-page document that I need to ask questions to, this document chat thing we found has just been very, very useful for people that really need to get answers quickly, delegate tasks to people related to these documents, and then move forward with their lives. Because right now, what we're seeing for the most part is it's an extremely kind of manual process. And so analyzing large documents and data sets, again, probably one of the most significant use cases that we see today with AI. And then, okay.
Oh, so then we have training on AI, right? Rock and I both facilitate training on AI. We incorporate this into our businesses. We try to leverage it as much as possible because it's all about improving efficiencies in our businesses. But it's more than just surface level, right? It's about training your employees. And you want to think about how often you're conducting those trainings. Think about how often AI is evolving and growing. And so you want to make sure your organization stays innovative, that they know what trends are happening in AI, especially as it relates to your industries, and reviewing the current state and conducting discoveries, right? Thinking about how you can develop different course and training materials, leveraging consultants like myself and Rock to come in and help you. Rock, I know you speak to this training wheel a lot.
Definitely. And great thoughts, Sammy, on training. I really think that doing this before you actually implement systems is really useful, because I think a lot of what we see when we're talking to people about AI and automation is lack of ideas about use cases, when in reality, almost every time there's a high impact use case. So doing these training events, especially if you can do it in sort of small class sizes, department specific content even, then it really helps kind of get the creative juices flowing, get the light bulb moments to happen, and really kind of helps get people from 0 to 1 and sort of being like, oh, what if we do this? Like, I didn't realize this was possible. Let's do this idea. So I think if you do this and then, kind of do it every 1 to 2 years after that, it's really helpful for kind of staying on top of things. Because as I'm sure we've all seen, this industry changes really quickly. The cutting edge, is constantly changing. And so just keeping people aware is really the point of this slide, and having people really be involved, having your employees on the ground be involved in being able to suggest ideas and being able to really be involved. That not only helps with ideas, but it also helps get buy-in. When people feel involved in these things, they don't feel like you're just trying to replace their jobs in AI. They really feel like you're trying to help them focus on what's actually important and do the more high impact stuff. And so then on that note, kind of going hand in hand with training, we also have created this matrix for you, because I know all us business people love a good matrix, that we strongly suggest you do this analysis before you do any sort of implementation of tech. So conduct what we call pre-production or a pre-implementation audit before you invest in new technology or software. So this is something that we do a lot of, this discovery process. We can definitely help you with this if preferred, but really the way to think about this on a high level is you break your business processes and your business pain points down into these two different sort of metrics, frequency and impact. So the pain points, and this is called the pain point prioritization matrix, if you were wondering, the high impact, high frequency pain points are the ones that you want to attack first. Those are the high priority problems. Those are the hair on fire. I'm processing 10,000 documents a month. My third data entry specialist just quit. What should I do? I am doing data entry at 3 a.m. Those are the high priority ones. Low priority ones are more of the low frequency, low impact use cases, things that you just don't see very often. Enough said. The high impact, low frequency, and the high frequency, high impact, low frequency. The high impact, low frequency, and then the low impact, high frequency. Those are the medium priority use cases, which, there is some benefit to addressing those to achieve full operational excellence. And really, this is a good framework to do this analysis. There's obviously a little more detail for your specific business, but asking yourself, is this high frequency? Is this high impact? Or is this just a cool thing that feels cool to use because it's AI and it's cutting edge? I will say, the only other thing I'll say about this, I'm sure we all have read the Goldman Sachs article about how there's been $1 trillion of capital expenditure investment put into AI with little return on investment to show for it. And I can say firsthand, the industry definitely lags some of the best practices, and a lot of people didn't do this sort of pre-production exercise. But I can say firsthand, if you do this, you will have a much higher probability of having a really beneficial use case for your business.
I love that. And that takes us to the AI best practices, right? So do an analysis first, do an internal analysis, and make sure you should even be leveraging any of the really cool and innovative AI strategies. But we talked about mastering prompt engineering, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Be very mindful of what you're asking AI to produce. Explore the different AI strategies. There are many different GPTs out there. You can create and build your own GPTs. I was actually talking to my 11-year-old son about this today, how that can be a whole business. But go into ChatGPT, go into Copilot and explore the different GPTs that you can create. Think about the different tools and programs that you can leverage. Rock reviewed a whole bunch of highly impactful tools. You also have your standard tools like Canva and Grammarly. We mentioned PowerPoint. But remember, this is your tool, and you're going to have to train it for your style, your tone, your brand. It should also, although you're leveraging it, it should sound like it's coming from you. We talked about fact checking, reviewing, doing your own research. That's that manual review you want to do before you publish anything and say, I'm putting this out in my business name. Like Rock mentioned, you want to avoid those hallucinations. You do not want to put out anything that is not factual, nothing that you haven't confirmed and verified on your own. But again, train it for your style and brand. Leverage it, make it part of your brand, but use it wisely and intentionally. So that's what we have. We're going to open it up for Q&A. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Oh,
Thank you, Jack.
thank you, Jack.
Okay, so we've got one here. Other than ChatGPT, what tools exist? I can speak on that for sure. So there's a lot of kind of the more mainstream large language models are actually made by a really small amount of companies. So you've got OpenAI, obviously, that makes ChatGPT and some of their other associated products. And you know, they're associated with Microsoft. It's sort of a partnership. You have Google's Gemini suite, where they have kind of their different versions of their large language models, where they frankly are trying to catch up to OpenAI. There's a whole discussion about, you know, how this happens in business, where the incumbent isn't making the best version. The Gemini one really isn't good. I'll just say that firsthand. Then you have Anthropic, which is an Amazon company, where they actually created a large language model called Claude. And Claude 3.5 Sonnet is actually considered the cutting edge, where they outperform ChatGPT and GPT-4o in a lot of their fundamental use cases. And it's worth mentioning, all those models are what are called closed source models. You have open source models as well. You have something called Hugging Face, which is the largest repository of open source AI models, even outside of just large language models. Then you also have Meta's Llama suite, which you have a small model and a large model, but there's actually open source models created by Facebook that are extremely powerful as well and kind of approach ChatGPT-like performance. The only other thing I'll say about it is that all of these different models essentially cost the same, and they're all kind of competing for performance. And if you are implementing any sort of like business use case, I should also mention that a lot of these models offer what are called mini models that are 97% cheaper, but almost perform like just as well as sort of the standard size foundational models. Besides that, there's tons of products like what we showed today where you can use it for a more niche use case like document chat or chatbots. But out of the box, there's quite a few options. But if you were going to use something besides OpenAI, I would suggest using Claude, the Anthropic product.
And I will say also, I use ChatGPT a lot, but I also use Copilot. And what I like to do is some A/B testing, where I will put the same prompts in each platform and see how it produces. ChatGPT is also doing a thing where it will give you will put in your prompts and ask for the generative content, and it will give you 2 separate pieces of content to choose from, where you can select and really analyze the difference. Let's see, we have Jane who asks, how would you approach surveys?
I don't know if I see that question. Am I missing?
It's in the Q&A. You see the Q&A on the bottom of the screen by the share button?
Let me see. Oh, here it is. Got it. Surveys. Let me see.
So there's also a question about, for those with no AI experience, are there any you found that are better on Mac versus PC? Where would you basically begin? That's a question.
Well, just to address okay, here we go. Okay, so a few things. First of all, hey, Jane, we work with Jane sometimes. Jane, great question about surveys. It's interesting because the surveys functionality is a great example of where you can combine AI with traditional automation. So if you were conducting a survey, what we would probably suggest is use just a traditional form. You could even use like a Google form or even like a type form or a Jot form or something, really any sort of form. And then when a person fills out that survey, they could then use it when the form is filled out, you could then use AI to interpret what the results are saying. You could use it to kind of route it kind of based on what the answers are in a sort of subjective way. So again, that sort of classification element to it. Another thing that you could do as part of conducting a survey is you could actually use a chat bot if you wanted it to be more free form, where based on what the user says, you can then have a logic tree that says, if they answer about this, then ask them these questions. So having the survey be a little more natural language, if a free form answer is helpful, could be really, really cool. But definitely using AI to track the input would be a huge application, Jane. Great question.
Yeah, she followed up with, could you use AI to track input? So yeah, that's good. Bruce asks, where do you go to load up AIs? So ChatGPT is, if you Google ChatGPT, it will open up for you. There's a free version and a paid version. And you can it'll give you examples of prompts that you can feed it. But that's just to get you started. And the more you use it, the more familiar you're going to get with it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. I'm on PC, so Microsoft has Copilot built into my my computer, like it's just here. So I can just click this button on the bottom right side of my screen, and Copilot is right there, and I can open it up and I can put in whatever prompts I have there. KC says, where would you suggest to begin for those with no AI experience yet? Are there any you found are better on a Mac versus PC? I think we were answering that, right?
Yeah, well, and I think the answer is that it works equally on both, as long as you have an internet connection, because these models generally aren't being sort of downloaded to your computer. It's sort of in the same way you would go on like Facebook or LinkedIn. Like the AI really is just like a web service. So it's equal. And then, one thing I want to just come back to just really quickly is when we were talking about the different types of models, somebody mentioned that they use Poe in the chat. Poe was created by an OpenAI board member and is kind of just OpenAI like with an interface on top of it. So I think it's just worth knowing that. But coming back to the other questions, the unstructured data capture. So Dan Smith, hey Dan. We also work with Dan sometimes. For the unstructured data capture, where would you start with capturing the data and then normalizing it? And this really ties into the where do you suggest to begin question. We strongly suggest, again, doing that pre-production exercise where you do an audit of where your pain points are. So for example, if you are like an insurance company, for example, and you're processing a lot of claims documentation, or you're processing a lot of documentation that requires manual entry, that could be a great example after you do that initial pre-production, that initial discovery period of saying, hey, this is an area where these documents are hitting our database. We should consider taking that data and then turning it into structured data. So think like somebody uploads a document, then you're immediately pulling that data object out of it and then entering it into your database. So I would say kind of on a high level, you really need to look at where your unstructured data is collecting before deciding, should I start here versus somewhere else? Would you agree with that, Sammy?
I would. I see Shanera has a question here in the other chat. What are some of the limits for AI managing program development? Also, what is the suggested AI for creating advertisement content? So managing program development, not sure what that means though. Rock, do you know?
Well, so in terms of program development, what I can say is we've used automated systems combined with AI for tech-enabled nonprofit management, so programming management for special events as well as actual programs for nonprofit members. So in that case, I've seen a lot of use case where you're using it to help manage attendance, you're helping to use it for answering questions, but for program, unless I'm not understanding the question fully, for programming, program management, I've seen kind of traditional automation be a little more high impact there. And then for creating advertising content, I mean, I think a lot of that was sort of similar to what Sammy was covering about you can use Canva. Canva is really fantastic for creating kind of visual advertising content. Really, any of the large language models are good for creating copy, but I would say Claude or ChatGPT are kind of the best. But again, if you can give it a few examples of your brand voice, that would be really helpful.
So, Shanera, thinking about the program development, you said meaning actual long-term programming. You can leverage, well, what are the limitations is one, what's the content that AI is generating already exists somewhere. Either you're feeding it information or it's pulling from what's currently out there. So you want to make sure that whatever program you're using it to help you develop isn't verbatim and copying something that already exists that could be copyrighted, and then you have copyright infringement rules and laws around that. But you can use it to help you develop programming, to say, you know, what are some innovative tools I can put into my programming? What are some strategies I can incorporate? And then also, as Rock was mentioning, AI for advertisement. Canva is just the easiest thing right now, but there are other, you know, programs just like Canva. However, Canva is full of templates, and that's what makes it really easy for advertisement. I also use Flowdesk for my email marketing. Flowdesk also has AI included in there, and they have things, especially templates designed for selling. So if you have products and services, especially if you have products that you're selling, there are templates that are already designed in tools like Flowdesk, MailChimp, Constant Contact, and Canva. Canva has a whole slew of tools. It also allows you to upload and define your brand, so you can have you can set your different levels of content. So if it's a high level heading, a second level heading, the different fonts you're going to use, your brand colors, and you have a brand design kit within Canva that you can easily plug and play when it comes to the templates.
Yeah, well, and I think it's also just obligatory mention. There's a lot you can do with creating sort of dynamic advertisements where you have sort of the initial image like template, and then you have placeholders within the document that you can just then fire data to. So you can generate images with dynamic data automatically. It's very, very cool. We've done a lot with that. So really good point.
Images and videos also. Jane asks, how accurate is the AI recording feature on Zoom meetings to summarize conversations and identify key points? Zoom does have the summarize feature right now. There are other tools that you can embed into your Zoom account that can summarize. I think it's cool. Somebody sent me a Zoom summary last week, and it's funny to kind of watch it talk to you in third person. Sammy said this and Sammy agreed to do that, and it does list the takeaways. It's not always 100% accurate, like we've been saying throughout this presentation. So if you have a chance to listen to the Zoom recording in conjunction with reading the summary, that's going to be more helpful for you because it'll give you the actual facts that occurred during the meeting. But it doesn't help to, yes, Scott, that was you. It doesn't help to hurt to just look at the summary to get high value key points of what happened.
Totally. And it's pretty good. I mean, the AI summarization of meetings, usually quite accurate. So it's pretty cool. Low hanging fruit, really.
Yes.
Okay. We're almost at that time where we're ending. So I just wanted to thank all of you who have joined us today for this Tech Council Lunch and Learn. I thank definitely our sponsor, UniPenn, Joan Walker, for moderating and for continuing to sponsor the Tech Council for the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. And many, many thanks to our two panelists, to Sammy Williams and to Rock Vitale. We really, really do appreciate your time, your expertise, your insights. And I think you had on the screen before ways to contact you. So if anyone, yes, there it is. So if anyone, if you want to take, if someone wants to take a quick screenshot of this slide, please do. You can definitely reach out to them. The Chamber will do other presentations on AI in the future. We are actually thinking about doing one for the Big Connect Expo, which I will plug now, is Thursday, November 21st. Thursday, November 21st. So thanks again for everyone for joining and for staying on, and we will see you all perhaps at another Chamber event.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.